I'd like to start by saying that this video is sponsored by Everand. More on that in a bit. So, a couple of months ago, I made a video talking about why I felt that Colin Bridgerton was a subpar love interest based on the way his story was told in season 3. And in the comments of that video, I had some subscribers and others who are not subscribers, which, if you aren't, what are you waiting for? Go on, hit the subscribe button and the like button too, whilst you're at it. But as I was saying, I had some people rightfully point out that part of the issue with Colin's romance and how it was played out probably stems from the fact that as viewers, the lot of us are tired of the reformed rake trope, which is a core staple for the Bridgerton stories. And if we're being honest, it is a staple for a lot of historical romances too. What can I say? The historical romance subgenre loves itself a rake that can be reformed by the power of true love. It is something I've learned to live with and can now roll with, but I understand how tiresome it can be for a lot of people. Especially when you consider that for a lot of the upcoming seasons, we are going to be getting more of the same. Except for Philip, of course. Philip has his own drama that being a rake doesn't quite fit into, which I very much appreciated when I read To Serve Philip with Love a couple of years ago. However, for the rest of the Bridgertons, I am sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but the rake you will get. Until at least we finally make it to the one Bridgerton who is the most hopeless romantic of them all. And when I say hopeless, I mean the one most likely to pluck a she loves me not with a daisy, the one who's already come up with names for their children and their children's children, the one most likely to carve their names covered in hearts into the bark of an old oak tree so that their love can last forever. Yes, the one who is most certainly not like the rest of his siblings. Gregory Bridgerton, my beloved baby boy, whose romance you get to read in catastrophic delight because is it a Bridgerton love story if there isn't some catastrophe tossed in the mix? But you get to read his romance story in the last book in the series titled On His Way to the Wedding by Julia Quinn. Whose wedding, you ask? Well, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you do love audiobooks and want to listen to it for yourself, it is available for you to do so. And what's better, if you have an Everand subscription, you get to listen to Gregory's romance and 2 others because with Everand subscription service, you get 3 whole books that you can claim with your monthly payment, which is a phenomenal deal compared to a certain competitor that rhymes with mandible, edible, legible, you get the gist, that only offers 1 book for their subscription. And hey, there's even an option for more casual readers who are more interested in older books and niche titles like myself. And it's cheaper too. So shout out to my fellow The Expanse fans who have been wanting to get into the books and have been hesitant because of the cost. With a library that spans thousands of books, best believe that Everand's got you. So do check out my affiliate link in the description bar if you'd like to sign up, as doing so does in its own way help support this channel. And with that said, let's bring things back around to why I am making the claim that Gregory Bridgerton is the most romantic of the lot. Because here's the thing, I am a big sucker for the thirst and the yearn. It butters my biscuits, tickles my fancy, does so many things right for me. It's the very reason why I absolutely love romance stories. And in watching and rewatching Bridgerton as a show over and over again, I've started doing that thing where you categorize the different love stories we've gotten in the 3 seasons and Queen Charlotte that the show has given us so far. And in making that categorization, I like to think about what I actually enjoyed the most about each season's couple. With Saphne's season, i.e. Bridgerton season 1, what drew me to their romance before the lying and the assault soured things for me in the latter part of the season was the earlier part. The entire premise of Sappho's romance was two people who wanted different things, and so therefore had convinced themselves that if they entered into a farce of a relationship, that would ultimately be able to get them what they want. For Simon, it is him getting the mamas of the ton off of his back. For Daphne, it is her securing a match that she is happy with. And in their flailing about to do so, they fall in love, yeah. But what I enjoyed the most for the brief moments we got it was their friendship. The way you could literally see them having these moments where they laughed together and could communicate their inside jokes that they had by just looking at each other across the room. It's what makes it possible for Daphne to be meeting the prince, and upon him complimenting her dress, she snorts in the most undignified way, but which Simon absolutely adores because she's laughing about a joke he had cracked and a prediction he had made about what the prince was telling all the other young ladies. They had their thing, their moments, and as much as it was entertaining to watch Reggie's very fine, very bare ass on my screen, what I loved the most about Sappho's relationship was the friendship. That is what made me swoon the most, smiling like a loon to watch these two, who are such good friends, unwittingly fall in love. It was delicious. It's why that scene with the queen when he talks about marrying his best friend, that's what made that scene hit for me hard. And the reason I bring it up as it pertains to Gregory Bridgerton is because that is ultimately what I loved about his romance too. The fact that you could literally see their friendship blossom, this unlikely pairing that became very good friends and then slowly fell in love on the page. These two who had convinced themselves that they wanted different things and had reached an agreement whereby Lucy was helping him to get what he thought he wanted. Only for him to be hit with the realization that he didn't know shit and what he wanted had been in front of him all along. That is one of my absolute favorite romance tropes, and Gregory Bridgerton does it so well. Then there's Anthony, and with Anthony, and I'm sure this comes as no surprise to anybody because I keep talking about how much I love them as a couple. But with Anthony, part of what I enjoyed about it is the fact that Kate is very headstrong. She's smart, she's stubborn, she knows her own mind and would not budge, and Anthony is pretty much the same. And often with romance stories, and even in real life as well, if we really consider it, it's often easy for someone as domineering as Anthony Bridgerton to have his personality overpower and overshadow whoever he's meant to be in relationship with. With Kate, they are equals in a way that I personally find very satisfying, and we see this also reflected with Gregory's romance. Now, am I saying that Gregory is a mini Anthony? No. Unlike his brother, Gregory really is the second youngest of the family, and that comes with a much softer approach. He doesn't need to be abrasive because he was raised into his adult years by Anthony and later Kate too. And so he's someone who grew up not under the weight and burden that Anthony Bridgerton grew up with. Anthony learned to ease up after he fell in love, and one of the beneficiaries of that is Gregory. But even before he fell in love, Anthony Bridgerton was both brother and father to his baby brother. And we do get that scene in the show where Gregory does express sadness at not having any memories of Edmund anymore, compounded by the fact that no one ever really talks about him at home. That scene tugged at my heartstrings so much because Anthony's tenderness, the trust Gregory has in him, the pain of that moment, Violet looking devastated, it shows just how big an influence Anthony had on Gregory's life. He helped raise him. And Gregory got to see this big brother of his fall in love, the once in a lifetime kind of love, and ended up wanting that for himself as well. But I'll get back to that in a bit. I was talking about how similar Lucy feels to Kate. Their origins are different, of course, and I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to spoil things for those who haven't read the books, but there is a reason why Lucy turned out the way she did. And in her being headstrong, we get that bit of banter, the resistance to what is happening, the feelings developing between her and Gregory that adds that sweet tension that I just love to gobble up within a story. And it is so reminiscent of Anthony too in that regard. Add the prodding along down the wedding aisle to the wrong person. And yeah, I'm like 65% sure that that's where the writers took inspiration for the happenings of season 2 and the drawn out wedding sequence. Although, and you might disagree with me on this, but I think Gregory's story did it much better. At least it isn't filled with stringing two sisters along in a way that made my teeth clench. And most importantly, Gregory doesn't pull an Anthony who is resistant to the idea of love. Matter of fact, it is the exact opposite. Gregory Bridgerton is desperate to fall in love. He's desperate to find his one, and so he would move heavens and uncover conspiracies if that is what would get him the woman he loves. And I found that beautiful, even as the entire book itself was a riot. And then there's Benedict, and I'm sure that this is what a lot of you were waiting for, because how dare I make the claim that Gregory is the most romantic Bridgerton when Benedict Bridgerton is right there? And you know what? Ordinarily, you would be right. Benedict as a character is someone who has been talking about love and waxes poetic and romantic about it since season 1. The problem, or rather the reason why Gregory hasn't beat in the most romantic Bridgerton department for me, is because with Benedict, he wants to fall in love. Like he wants to create and lose himself in the most beautiful piece of art. He speaks poetry and his eyes cloud over when he says so, but I'd always interpreted it as he was more obsessed with the idea of love as it is described in poetry and works of art than him wanting the love for himself. That's what we're meant to take away from his many dalliances and how he seems to shy away whenever the topic or conversation becomes real in a way that emotions could get in, as we see in the case of Lady Tilly Arnold. Benedict's particular choice of the women and man he hooked up with have always centered around those who aren't available to him, ones to whom he would not need to have any sort of commitment to. It's why Sophie throws him for a loop. For the first time, he meets someone who fits the criteria of a woman, a member of their society that he would be expected to do right by. And for the first time, he isn't terrified or wary of that. He wants that. Of course, what then ensues is a book-long chase until he finally does get to be with the woman he loves, but he does have to earn it. However, if you've read An Offer from a Gentleman, then you most certainly know that a lot of Benedict Bridgerton's choices were most certainly not very romantic. He is lucky that he's hot, that his mother is amazing, his sisters are great, and he's a Bridgerton. Because if it were another book, his ass most certainly would have been shot. Benedict had his doubts before he found his one, and those doubts created a situation where he chose to move through their society unencumbered, giving his attention, not his heart, to anyone who caught it, as long as they were not young and looking for marriage or love. Even Colin as a brother is someone who did spend years outside the home, visibly searching for something that he ends up finding when he returns and is reunited with Penelope. All that wasted time and effort when the one he loves and who loves him back has been right there all along, waiting for him. And it took her deciding that she was done waiting and ready to see what else was out there and who could love her back for Colin to realize what he was about to miss out on. The love that was about to slip through his fingers. Gregory, on the other hand, is someone who grew up watching all his siblings, even his annoying baby sister Hyacinth, find love. And so that is something that has been at the core of his character since he was a child. He gets to see 8 good examples of what a great love looks like, the many forms it can take. He knows that love can be found in a scheme and a plan gone pretty damn wrong, as it does with Simon and Daphne. That it can be 2 people at loggerheads who disagree on so many things because they are so similar in what they want, and what they want is each other, as with Kate and Anthony. He knows he can be fighting against the status quo and making waves that would displease the sensibilities of the ton and shock them to boot, as with Benedict and Sophie. That it's the friendship and repartee to be found with someone who sees you like no one else does and you understand her like no one else can, as is the case with Colin and Penelope. That it's about trusting your gut and being willing to leave anything and everything behind to chase after it, as is seen with Eloise and Philip. That it can be sedate and calm like Fran and John, or passionate and worth a second chance that you fight for like Fran and Michael slash Michaela. Or the witty banter of finding someone on the same wavelength as you who is as willing to match your shenanigans with every step like Hyacinth and Gareth. Gregory took all these lessons and brought it into his own potential romance with a big dash of, I want this for myself and I'm willing to fight to get it. And for me, that makes him the most romantic of the lot. And yes, that is inclusive of the fact that he so desperately wants to be in love that he totally misread his feelings for one person as being love and decided to course correct in a way that I find entertaining as hell. Am I being very careful with my words so I don't give too many things away and spoil the book for non-readers? Yes, I am. Because what hurts the most for me is that since we only got renewed for seasons 5 and 6 so far, and who knows, that would probably take us to 2030. We can't say for sure if Netflix would still be renewing the show at that point, which means we just might not get Gregory's story, and that is a damn shame. So read the book. Except for the second epilogue. You can totally skip the second epilogue because that is just too much body horror and utterly unnecessary pain. And I don't even know why Julia Quinn thought it was a good idea to include it in the book, especially the last book in the series. Just ignore the second epilogue. Every other part is fine. And just accept that the book is kooky and outlandish and just perfectly suited to the hopeless romantic that is Gregory Bridgerton. But of course, that's just my thought and opinion. It is possible that you might not agree with me on that. Please let me know in the comments if you do or don't. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share it if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. And until tomorrow's video, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.